And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get ready to cap off what has been an unbelievable last race of the regular season weekend here at M&Ms Super Speedway. We now know the 8 drivers that will battle for the Tax Slayer Championship. We know the 12 drivers that will battle for the Pizza Hut X Series Championship. Now, it is time to determine who will be the Sweet 16 drivers to battle for the 5th annual Hersheys Cup Series chase for the championship. Coming into this one, lots of scenarios. The one thing that I will put as a disclaimer, though, is there may be a point where I will say somebody's into the playoffs, and then the official standings will say otherwise. Case in point, Tax Slayer Truck Series race. I said that Isaac Nichols was the one that made it into the final playoff position, and yet Tyler Deaver went to victory lane in the race and was ahead of Isaac Nichols in the point stands, and that win locked himself up a spot in the point stands, and I made absolutely no mention of that because I was so focused on the 19. So my apologies on that, but it's a case in point right there that just because I say somebody's in or somebody's out, do not rely on me. Wait until the official point standings are shown at the end of this video, because more than likely it may not completely correlate with what I verbally say. I got the Pizza Hut X Series right mentally, but I did not get the Tax Slayer Truck Series 1, and so do not, when I say this person is out, this person is in, do not completely 100% believe me until you see the cold hard facts with the point standings showing in front of you at the end of this video. Now, coming into this race, we've got a lot of different scenarios, so bear with me. I'm probably going to talk fast to try and fit it all in here before we get the command to fire the engines, and so I will be talking pretty fast. We, in this current point in time, have drivers coming into this race. Regardless of what happens today, they will be in the playoffs. They include the likes of Trent Dunham, Cole Baker, Caleb Farrell, Dallas McIntosh, Daniel Gilbert, K Shearer, Charles Sandfer, Jessica Shelton, Sean Gallighan, Chris Dodd, James Richardson, Garrett Sydnor, and Benjamin Miles. They will all battle for the championship regardless of what happens here today. They are far enough ahead of the cut line in the standings with at least one trip to victory lane. Anthony McCrury right now would have a spot as well because he is inside the top 30 in the points with 2 wins. However, he is 27th in the point standings, only 24 points ahead of 30th in the point standings cut line. Drivers he'll have to try and stay ahead of today include Levi McIntyre, Matt Haas, L Alvarise, and it also wouldn't hurt if he were running ahead of drivers like James McCloud, Zachary Fitzwater, and Quentin Moore. Now, that would then leave potentially 2 spots left up for grabs. Currently, those 2 spots are held by Keith Batson and Dylan Young. However, just behind them, as they are 20th and 21st in points, you got Alex Drayton 22nd, Dylan Poteet in 23rd. And the gap from Keith Batson back to Dylan Poteet is a mere 16 points. So it's going to be really close amongst those 4. And then the battle between those guys may end up getting even more heated up if we have another driver go to victory lane for the first time this season, like Blaine Keys, Emmanuel Hartnett, Brooke Allen, K Tellier, Brandon Gonzalez, or J Baskinger. They're ahead of those 4 guys in the point standings, and they could automatically get into the playoffs if they pick up a win here today at M&Ms. Another championship scenario, chase scenario we should look at coming into this race is Joshua Michaels. Now, Michaels comes into this race outside the top 30 in the point stands. He is 31st in points, 3 points behind the cut line. But if Joshua Michaels goes to victory lane here today for a second time this season, that would not only give him 2 wins, but also would probably move him into the top 30 in the point standings, which means that Joshua Michaels would leapfrog all those other drivers I just mentioned, like Batson, Young, Drayton, and Poteet, and that would put him into a playoff slot. So the real test is really going to come down right now between Batson, Young, Drayton, and Poteet, because they may be potentially battling here today, depending on the different scenarios I just laid before you. They could be potentially battling for the final 16th spot in the playoffs. Another driver I should mention as well that could play a factor as well is Zachary Fitzwater. If he goes to victory lane, that's 2 wins for him this season. He also would leapfrog into a playoff position. So a lot of different scenarios coming into this race, and a lot of drivers we are going to have to keep tabs on today. We'll be watching Keys, Hartnett, Allen, Tellier, Gonzalez, and Baskinger, see if they can make their way to the front. We'll keep tabs on the 61 of Anthony McCrury, see if he stays in the top 30 in the points. Joshua Michaels, if he can get himself a second win and get a playoff spot. Same for Fitzwater, Batson, Young, Drayton, and Poteet. That's where the main focus is probably going to be on here today. And keep in mind, we have stage points on the line in this one today as well. Stages will be 8, 8, and 10. And those stage points could very well be a huge deciding factor into who's going to make it into the playoffs and who isn't. Last season, Blaine Keys won this race. It was his only win of the season, but it was enough to get him into the chase for the championship, and he finished 7 points back from getting the championship to the eventual champion, Matt Haas. Will we see a shot clock cheese like that here today in the Hersheys Cup Series? Final race of the regular season at M&Ms is green. Let's roll. And someone's blowing up back there already. And I think that was the 42 of Keys. Someone blew up right at the start of this race. Everybody dodging and weaving, trying to avoid, and I'm pretty sure that was the 42, as Chris Dodd will now go by Nathan Hudson for the top position. McCrury did not get going on that green flag. Here comes Michaels to the inside, 3 wide. Rookie Cody Smart going to make it 4 wide. They put Baskinger in the middle. Baskinger still trying to find victory lane this season, trying to go 5 for 5 and making the chase for the championship in 5 seasons. No driver has ever done that. The closest is Blaine Keys. He's made it 4 out of the 5 seasons he's raced. As Chris Dodd will come around, and it looks like he will lead the first lap. We're going to quickly jump and see if we can find out. Yes, it was Blaine Keys in the 42. Up in smoke, literally go his playoff hopes. Whoa, 1 car in the grass back there. That was Emmanuel Hartnett. And my question is Blaine Keys going to be able to get back to the pit lane before the leaders catch up to him? It looks like he's going to be able to. Everybody able to avoid Blaine Keys, fortunately, so we do not have a caution flag coming out here. And you know, a lot of those drivers that I mentioned coming into this race that are locked into the playoffs, Chris Dodd, Sean Gallighan, K Shearer, Charles Sandfer, well, they're all up here towards the front. What are they looking for? They're looking for stage wins. Stage wins would give them playoff points, which certainly would help them be in a much better seed heading into the postseason based off the postseason playoff points. Joshua Michaels trying to get up there to the race lead right now. That outside line seems a little bit better formulated with Chris Dodd, Johnny Gardner, and Sean Gallighan. Johnny Gardner in the 55 this season, put the 0.26 in victory lane twice last season, still for his first win of the year. Johnny Gardner, I do not think is a driver that would be able to make it into the playoffs even if he goes to victory lane, because there's a number of drivers ahead of him in the point standings coming into this race that have a win as well, including Joshua Michaels, Zachary Fitzwater, Poteet, Drayton, Young, and Batson. I don't think he can pick up enough points today to be able to get up there into one of those playoff seeds. But ironically enough, of those the 4 that I mentioned coming into this race that might be battling for that 16th playoff position, none of them are really up here at the front yet. Haven't seen the 2, the 77, 39, or 31 pop up near the front. Another thing that I should point out as well is mentioned Anthony McCurry, to remain in the top 30 of the points, needs to be ahead of drivers like Levi McIntyre and Matt Haas. Well, they are not too far behind the 61 car. There you see Haas in the 78 and that red and white Ford Mustang. Wow, good job, me. Ford Fusion, too focused on the Pizza Hut X Series race that was here yesterday, of Levi McIntyre starting to close in as well. And McCurry caught up on the high line, going to start losing some ground. Trent Dunham, points leader coming into this race. He's now cracked the top 10. Tim Walsh right behind him. Those two are really good buddies. Remember back to when they were buddies in the Snickers Cup Series? Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers. Emmanuel Hartnett out in front. Now this is one of those drivers that with a win would lock himself up a spot in the playoffs. And he has made the postseason 2 seasons in a row. Season 3, Season 4. Season 3, it was due to a win at Eldora. Season 4, I'm trying to remember when that was, is Quentin Moore, and then 89, a lot of damage on the rear of his machine. Now, we did not have a caution come out, but apparently something happened to him, and you guys have probably already seen it, courtesy of the NSRA split cam. I'm still a bit at a puzzlement of what happened. But apparently it wasn't enough to bring out a yellow, and now he's holding up the entire outside line. And look at how they're losing so many positions there. Dunham, Haas, Mathews, and Alex Drayton, and that's not good for the 77 especially. Drayton, one of those drivers that's trying to get into the playoffs, and this is going to lose him a ton of track position. Another driver back here that's losing track position is Dylan Young in the 2 car. And one driver I haven't yet seen up here towards this pack at all is the 39 of K Batson. There he is. Boy, I think he's looking for a caution flag potentially. Brooke Allen right there as well in the 3. She was one of the drivers with a win that could lock herself up a spot in the playoffs. And G Sydnor last week shocked everybody with a win in duel number 2 at DuQuoin, which locked him up a spot in the playoffs. Second straight season he'll battle for the championship. Oh man, Dylan Poteet way back here with Dallas McIntosh. Now McIntosh is already locked into the playoffs. Poteet is not. Poteet, a 3-time winner and was in the playoffs last season. Not looking good for him right now. He's hoping and praying for a caution. There's Daniel Gilbert, he's already locked in. Cody Llamas, Leon Alvarise way back here. James Richardson also locked into the playoffs, but not having a good run here today at M&Ms. And a gearbox issue is the reason for the 42 of Blaine Keys retiring from the race. So apparently he must have missed a gear on the start and probably misshifted, and boy, that's a tough break, especially when he had a potential playoff spot on the line if he were able to go to victory lane and go back-to-back in 2 seasons here at M&M Superspeedway. Quentin Moore, he's pretty much out of it now as well. Came into this race 24th in the point standings. Is out in front, Emmanuel Hartnett showing the way, and more importantly, we're closing in on the end of our first stage. And Emmanuel Hartnett coming into this race was 11th in the point standings, second highest running of the non-winners this season. Highest was Blaine Keys in 9th, but there was only about a 15-point gap between Emmanuel Hartnett and Blaine Keys. Keys is out of this race. Hartnett looks like he's going to pick up stage points, so Hartnett, I think, is going to jump up to the highest running non-winner in the point standings according to the live points. But more importantly, Emmanuel Hartnett out in front. If he wins, he's in the playoffs for the 3rd straight season. Charles Sandfer trying to make a move there on Johnny Gardner as it's Toyota being chased down by 3 Chevrolets. There's another driver, though, that is now up here potentially in the mix. He's running in 7th. That's the Mitsubishi Lancer of Brandon Gonzalez. He is another driver, like Emmanuel Hartnett. If he goes to victory lane today, he's locked into the playoffs. Sandfer, Gallighan, Miles, they're already locked into the playoffs. 4th, 5th, and 6th. They're just trying to get the best stage points they can, and Emmanuel Hartnett got himself 10 valuable stage points. Chris Dodd getting some stage points, as did Sandfer, Gallighan, Miles. Number of drivers that are inside the playoff grid. Another driver that ended up getting some playoff points there was Joshua Michaels. He got a playoff point for this stage. And I believe with where he's running in relation to Leon Alvarise, who has lost the lead pack, I think he's in good shape of making it to the top 30 in the points by the time this race is over. Question is, though, would that be enough? I don't think so. I think he's definitely got to win this race in order to make it into the playoffs. Well, we saw Dylan Poteet and Keith Batson struggling. Dylan Young is not struggling right now. He is just outside the top 10 currently. So right now, Dylan Young in a good position to make sure he's going to make it into the playoffs. And that could potentially, if Hartnett wins this race, that could potentially be the 16th playoff position that he's going to get. Follow where Batson, Poteet, and Drayton are currently at. Drayton is the 2nd highest of those 4. And he is currently scored in the 28th position. Keith Batson all by his lonesome in 30th. Dylan Poteet by himself in 31st. Those guys need a caution to keep their playoff hopes alive. Because right now, with where McCrury is running, I think he would still be in the playoffs, and I believe Dylan Young would get the 15th playoff spot, with Emmanuel Hartnett getting the 16th playoff spot if he closes the deal here today with this win. For Alex Drayton, at this current point in time, he's hoping and praying that a repeat winner goes to victory lane. He wants the 88, the 44, 03, 25 to find victory lane here in this one. We also should mention, too, though, that with where Drayton is running right now, he's got to pick up a couple more spots. He's 29th, Batson is 30th, Poteet is 31st. Well, Drayton came into this race behind Keith Batson in the point standings, 9 points. Right now, according to the live points, with no stage points awarded to either driver, he's only picked up 1 position, 1 point on Keith Batson, and whittled it down now to a separation of 8 points between himself and Keith. So right now, Keith Batson in a good spot, but Keith Batson, again, like I said, needs a repeat winner to go to victory lane in this one. Another thing we should point out, too, is we're going to be getting pretty close to the green flag pit stops maybe taking place in this one. And it looks like James Richardson, not the day he was looking for, even though he will battle for the championship in the playoffs. He will go a lap down now to fellow Toyota Camry Emmanuel Hartnett. Now, if I remember correctly, in the Truck Series race, they ended up making pit stops just before the ending of the second stage. So these drivers will more than likely, we'll see them diving onto pit road for green flag pit stops somewhere between laps 16 to 18, I would say. Maybe a little earlier than that. Maybe like laps 14 to 16. Because keep in mind, too, we did have a caution flag in our Truck Series race. They were able to run a few laps under yellow, so they may have been able to save a little. So I think they would come in a little bit earlier here since we've run clean and green this entire race so far. So I would say somewhere within the next 1 to 3 laps, we're going to see these leaders hitting the pit lane. And the question is there any kind of pit strategy that these guys from second on back could use to get by the 83 of Emmanuel Hartnett? See if anybody comes to pit road this time. This would be right around the fuel window area that they'd be able to make it the rest of the way. Benjamin Miles, I thought, was going to come to pit road. Nope, instead he stays out there. But look at this. L Alvarise looked like he tried to play a little bit of helpmate to his teammate in the 88, Chris Dodd, trying to help him get by Emmanuel Hartnett, but didn't quite work. Chris Dodd, though, right on the back bumper of the 83. The problem is, though, if Chris Dodd makes a move for the top position, is Johnny Gardner going to go with him? I'm going to quickly look and see here, too, as we're watching this battle, see if Emmanuel Hartnett has any stage points coming into this race, not counting the stage win that he just picked up. And yes, he does. He does have a previous stage win. So currently, if Hartnett makes it into the playoffs, he'd have 2 playoff points based off the previous stage win he had and the stage win he just got moments ago. And I think we end up having a driver hit pit road. We're missing somebody up here at the front. Caution! Oh boy, caution's out. Just with the pit stops looming. It was Sean Gallighan that's missing. Where'd the 44 car go? I have a feeling it might be him. Oh, he's on pit road. I don't know if that's a regularly scheduled stop for him or not, but the yellow flag is out, and I believe we are racing back. I think the leader crossed the start-finish line before the before the caution came out. I think there's a little confusion. I think Hartnett crossed the line just before the caution came out. Chris Dodd did not, and they're going to have them really spread out here because Hartnett is still running full speed coming back to the caution. Chris Dodd is down to pacing, and Gallighan is still on pit road. I wonder if something happened to the 44. Caution waves, and next time around it will be the end of the second stage. Gallighan was up inside the top 6, and now it looks like Chris Dodd and company are going to catch up there. There's some skid marks on the front straightaway, so I don't rightly know what happened. No doubt everybody's going to be coming to pit road here, and this could be the money stop of the day, basing on who's going to have what track position by the time we go back green flag racing with less than 10 to go. So we are actually going to stay here live for a moment, and then we'll look and see what brought out the caution. Because like I said, this could be the money stop, and for Emmanuel Hartnett and this 83 team, it could be the most important pit stop that these guys make all season long. Their chase hopes could be on the line on this pit stop. The only car I see that looks like it ran into any kind of trouble was Sean Gallighan. And this caution could very well have also been a godsend for Alex Drayton, Keith Batson, and Dylan Poteet. That's going to allow them to bunch back up after those three had kind of lost the lead pack. Here we go. They're all going to dive to pit road. I will be very surprised if nobody does. Those cars there that's staying out are lap cars. They'll be in next time by Alvarise and Richardson. And what do you do here? Do you go with tires to try and get some added grip? Do you just go with fuel only? Do you go maybe with a 2-tire stop? What is the plan? What is the strategy? Hartnett pulls into his pit stall. They are going to go with at least right side tires. They ran about 15 laps on this, and he's down and away. Pit stop is over for the 83, a 2-tire stop, packet full of fuel. Now the question is, can he win the battle off pit road? He had to slow up a little bit there for K Mathews getting into his pit stall. Chris Dodd going to try and win the battle off pit road. Not quite going to be able to do it, and look who came out in second. J McCloud in the 51. Quite a pit stop there for McCloud. Oh, I don't like this. That was a little close for comfort. K Tellier also rolling the dice. She picked up some track position, and so too did Dylan Young. I'm pretty certain the 83 is going to be the leader. I think McCloud's going to have to give that spot back. And these drivers up here will make their pit stops afterwards. So I'm pretty certain Emmanuel Hartnett is going to still be the race leader when we go back green, but some varying strategies here. And the top 10 looks a little bit different than it did before. Let's jump back and take a look at a replay of what brought out this yellow flag for the first time here today at M&Ms. Here's what brought out the caution. Second time today we have seen a mechanical failure here at M&M Superspeedway, and this just says to me they probably had the 44 packed too much with grill tape and it probably overheated. He was running at the tail end of this lead pack, and usually the car at the tail end of a pack of race cars at the Superspeedway is going to be the one that packs the most heat. And there you see, it just blows up. Now the reason that the caution came out was, unfortunately for S Gallighan, it happened past the entrance to pit road, so he almost had to make it an entire lap back around and just couldn't do it. Car just didn't have enough forward momentum. I mean, the engine's dead, so you just have to basically shift it into neutral and hope you can coast it back to the pit road entrance, and he was unable to do that. You'll see as he comes down here into turn 3, car's just going to start coming to a stop, and with the car stopped in the middle of the racetrack, there's just no way the NSRA officials can wave that off and not throw a caution flag. So S Gallighan, a tough break for him, a tough way to start off the playoffs. He's already locked in, but obviously a lot of drivers say you want to have good momentum heading into the playoffs, and that's not going to be the case here for S Gallighan, who was having such a good run up inside the top 10. Car up in smoke, comes to a halt in 3, and that's the day done for the 44. I'm getting word about something that could be very important based on this next restart, and we're going to take a quick look at that, so don't go away. And here's what I was talking about. They are saying the 88 of Chris Dodd is the race leader. As you can see right there, that white line coming off of pit road is actually the line that determines who is going to be restarting where. I thought it was that white line right there at the end of the pit road wall. That's not the case. It was that first white line just at the end of the pit stalls. And Chris Dodd, you saw clearly cross the line about 2-3 car lengths ahead of Emmanuel Hartnett. So the official word is new race leader, the 88 of Chris Dodd. So the 83 team did not get the job done and get Hartnett out first. And Chris Dodd will be leading us back to the green flag. Now, why is that so important? It's important because Chris Dodd is a former winner this season, which now puts the battle for the potential last spot in the point standings back into the hands of that battle between Dylan Young, K Batson, Dylan Poteet, and Alex Drayton. Dylan Young going to restart in 7th. Let's see where the other ones are. Poteet's going to restart in 18th, so they picked up some spots on pit road. Alex Drayton is back in 32nd with K Batson in 31st. So right now, Dylan Young and Dylan Poteet currently would get into the final 2 spots if Chris Dodd can close the deal in this one. We've got 34 cars still in the lead, lap 37 cars still running. Richardson, Alvarise, and Moore are all at least 1 lap down. S Gallighan, we saw his problem bringing out this caution. A valve issue sends him to the garage area and also out of the race Blaine Keys due to a gearbox issue. So far today, As far as cautions are concerned, we've only had mechanical problems. Quentin Moore does have that rear end damage, which I'm assuming is crash damage, but like I said, I don't know what actually happened to him. You guys do. And when we get the green, it will be 7 laps to go. Chris Dodd trying to pick up his 3rd win of the season, but look at the hungry drivers behind him. You've got Emmanuel Hartnett, James McCloud, Johnny Gardner, K Tellier, Brandon Gonzalez. 3 of those 5 drivers with a win, they locked themselves up a playoff spot. Hartnett, Tellier, and Gonzalez. And they're all up here now towards the front when it really will matter. Green flag back in the air here at M&Ms. Hartnett tried to time the start to be able to get to the inside of Chris Dodd. Couldn't quite do it, as now Brandon Gonzalez to the inside. That's a battle for the 5th position between himself and K Tellier. Hartnett's there, but if he makes a move, will anybody go with him? Gonzalez again back down to the bottom of the racetrack. Now going to try and get 4th place away from Johnny Gardner. Here comes McCloud in the 51. Gonzalez going to make it 3 wide. That could be for 2nd place down here into 2. Ooh, man, almost some contact there between Gonzalez and Hartnett as Chris Dodd watching the show behind him. These drivers battling like their lives depend on it, and for many of them, their championship hopes depend on it. Here comes Joshua Michaels in the 10. We said a 2nd win would lock him into the playoffs. He's got Tim Walsh as his wingman. They're 3 wide for the lead going into 1. Dylan Young's former teammate from last season, Levi McIntyre, right there. He was pushing Dylan Young for a moment. Now he's going to go 3 wide. Here comes Tim Walsh for the race lead. Tim Walsh 36th in the points. There's no way he's going to be able to make the playoffs even if he wins, but he wants to get a victory for the first time since back in, what was it, I think season 2? And now Dylan Young slots into 2nd behind Joshua Michaels. We know Joshua Michaels, this is going to be his final season in Hersheys Cup Series competition for a while. He'd love to be able to make the playoffs in his swan song season. Here comes Levi McIntyre and Jessica Shelton mixing it up there for the 3rd position as Dylan Young will try and get to the inside line for the race lead. He's there, and he's got his former teammate Levi McIntyre right there with him. McIntyre and Young Motorsports parted ways at the end of last season, but you gotta think there's still a little bit of an underlying alliance between those 2 Ford Fusions. Jessica Shelton, we know her expertise at restrictor plate tracks. She's now got Brandon Gonzalez trying to help get him towards the front. Dylan Young out in front, showing the way, pacing the way, trying to make his very first Hersheys Cup Series chase for the championship. Never been in one in his career. And his teammate is starting to catch up there, the 22 of J Bryant. If McIntyre and Bryant can get up there and play defense, Dylan Young could have this thing locked up. Meanwhile, the battle's still on for 2nd. Shelton trying to get to the inside of McIntyre. Tim Walsh offering the drafting help low. Brandon Gonzalez offering the drafting help up high. Actually, that's Joshua Michaels rather in the 10. Shelton clears for 2nd place. 3.5 laps to go here, and things are just getting crazier up towards the front. J Baskinger is hooked up with his teammate G Sydnor. Can they do anything together? Shelton starting to reel in Dylan Young. Tim Walsh battling for 3rd. He's got it. 4th place McIntyre. 5th place under contest. Bryant and Gonzalez, who both just rubbed doors right there out of turn 4 and down the front straightaway. 3 laps to go here at M&Ms. Walsh to the inside for 2nd. Tucks back in line. Top 3, top 4, single file into 1. And the one thing I'm really worried about, where's the 89 of Quentin Moore? Are they going to catch him before this race is over? Because he is definitely slower. Here comes Shelton for the race lead. She wants those valuable playoff points. Walsh stays up high with Dylan Young. They're going to be able to get enough straightaway speed to hold on to at least 1st and 2nd for the moment. Here comes Michaels. Big run with Levi McIntyre on the bottom into 3. Where's Moore? He's in 1. Leaders are out of 4. Would they end up catching him before we get to the white flag? 2 laps to go. Young, Walsh, 1-2, single file. They're 4 wide behind him with Llamas, Drayton, Hartnett, Bryant, and Shelton. Michaels trying to get his second win of the season. He's battling right now for 3rd place with Levi McIntyre. Meanwhile, Dylan Young with his wingman Tim Walsh in tow. They are 1 and 2 and trying to keep ahead of the rest of the chaos ensuing behind them. Into 3 they go. Next time by is the white flag. If you're Tim Walsh, do you try going for the win? You're not going to make the playoffs, but you want to end your winless streak. He's going to look to the inside of the left rear quarter panel of Dylan Young. And Cody Llamas is coming to pit road. Here comes Joshua Michaels. Big run down the front straightaway with help from JT Bryant. Michaels trying to make the playoffs. A second win would do it. He's side by side with Dylan Young going into 1. He's to the race lead. Can Michaels hold him off? He's got Bryant behind him, then McIntyre, then Gonzalez. Will Bryant make a move for the race win? McIntyre's right there with him. Will he make a move going into 3? Joshua Michaels, the Toonami Samurai Jack Honda Accord trying to make its very first chase for the championship. Through turns 3 and 4 for the final time. Joshua Michaels is going to make it into the playoffs. He's going to win here today at M&Ms Super Speedway, 2nd win of the season. First time in his career, Joshua Michaels will make the playoffs. Michaels, back in Season 1, went to victory lane at Pocono, but wasn't high enough in the standings for it to count towards a spot in the championship hunt. Other wins that he's picked up in previous seasons have been during the chase for the championship, but finally, Joshua Michaels in his final season in Hersheys Cup Series competition will be battling for a championship. But now the question remains, who is going to join him? Gonna have to try and make a lot of educated guesses for sure on this one. And this is bad news for drivers like Poteet, Drayton, and Batson, because it is a driver that leapfrogs them now with his 2nd win of the season, and was outside the top 30 in the point standings coming into this race, ineligible for a playoff position, and now he's snatched away one of those playoff spots. JT Bryant going to bring it home in 2nd, Dylan Young in 3rd, Levi McIntyre in 4th. The Fords were strong here in the closing stages. Brandon Gonzalez, his playoff hopes end with a 5th place finish. Walsh gets 6th, 7th for Shelton. Drayton there in 8th, Farrell 9th, and McCloud in 10th. First off, where did McCrury finish? 27th. He finished 1 spot behind Matt Haas. He finished ahead of L Alvarise, who finished a lap down. But McIntyre had a good run, as did Bryant, as did Michaels. Boy, I don't know if McCrury is still in the top 30 in points or not. I could try and do some calculations, but Michaels picked up some stage points, so he's going to pass McCrury, I believe, in the point standings. McIntyre came into this race only 7 points behind McCrury. He's going to pass him in the point stand, so that moves McCrury at least down to 29th. And JT Bryant was roughly 25 points back from McCrury. He got some stage points here, and he finished 25 positions ahead of McCrury. Oh boy. I think McCrury may have missed out on the chase. That's just an educated guess based off of my mentally calculating, but I don't think McCrury made it top 30 in points. after this race. So if that's the case, he falls out, Michaels moves in, who would then potentially get the final 2 spots in the point standings? My educated guess would say Dylan Young, with the stage points he just got in a 3rd place finish, he would get one of them. So then it comes down between Keith Batson, Alex Drayton, and Dylan Poteet. Dylan Poteet was the 4th of those 4 drivers coming into this race, and I don't think he even finished in the top 28. No, he finished 34th, so Poteet's out. Now it's between Batson and Drayton, and the gap between the 2 of them was, 9 points, I think? Batson and Drayton were separated by 9 points. Drayton finished 8th and gets stage points to boot. Keith Batson finished in 31st. So if I am correct, and the point standings are going to show the official, but just off the top of my head, I believe the 16 drivers that will battle for the championship this season now will be Trent Dunham, Cole Baker, Caleb Farrell, Dallas McIntosh, Daniel Gilbert, Kev Shearer, Charles Sandfer, Jessica Shelton, Sean Gallighan, Chris Dodd, James Richardson, Garrett Sydnor, Benjamin Miles, Joshua Michaels, and Dylan Young. I believe that is going to be the 16 drivers that will battle for the championship this season. We're going to have to wait and see, though, with the official word of the point standings. But as you look on down through the remainder of the finishing results there, McIntosh, Batson, Llamas, Allan, Poteet, have a feeling that they may have actually had to pit there in the closing stages, and that's why they lost so much ground. We saw Cody Llamas dive for pit road there with about 2 laps to go. And then Richardson, Alvarez, Moore all finished off the lead lap. Sean Gallighan and Blaine Keys were the only 2 drivers who finished this race behind the wall. But that is going to do it here today from M&Ms Super Speedway. Joshua Michaels, with his 2nd win of the season, he's locked into the playoffs, and you will see in just a moment who the other 15 drivers officially will be. Thank you all for tuning in to today's race from M&Ms Super Speedway. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become a part of the crew today. We have shown you your full finisher results. You are now looking at your rookie points, your overall points. The drivers highlighted in yellow are your 16 playoff drivers, and then after that you will see the newly reformatted points, which is going to show you what the drivers were able to get in terms of playoff points during the course of the regular season. That is what the points will look like heading to our first championship chase race, as all 3 series next week will be heading to Chicagoland to start their respective chases for the championship. 5 races for the trucks, 7 races for the Pizza X Series drivers, and 10 races for the Hersheys Cup Series drivers. We are on the road to the championship for all 3 series now. The chase has begun. You've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its Best. We'll see you guys next week for the beginning of the chases.